Hi, I'm Gary, and welcome to the Teed Up Show. As you can probably tell, I'm from the UK, and it's not Gary, Indiana. And tonight we're a few days out from the NBA season starting, and we're going to have a look at predictions for the Eastern Conference as it will finish, in my opinion. As you can probably see, I'm an Orlando Magic fan, unfortunately at the minute. But we're going to look at this and try to make some calls. I don't have a bias against any other teams. Maybe it's one of the blessings from being in the UK. And also, it's just my insights. If you agree, hit me up in the comments. If you disagree, hit me up in the comments. But at the end of the day, let's keep it friendly and let's see who's right at the end of the season. So maybe it's a bit of a shock to start with. Given the situation that's happening in Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving, I'm looking at it right now that he might not play this season. Because of that, and because of what happened at the back end of last year with the Milwaukee Bucks winning the title, gaining that experience, I think the Bucks in the regular season, I'm going to put that there, in the regular season, will finish top of the East. They are the NBA champions. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is, I would say, possibly going to be the MVP again this year. Looking at pre-season with Giannis, it looks as though he's got a shot. He's got a 3-point shot now. So the big question is straight away, what do you do with Giannis? The guy has now got that validation of a title. As I found out as a Magic fan in 1995, never underestimate the heart of a champion. Never underestimate actually what's winning this first time has done for the Bucks, has done for Mike Budenholzer, and has done for players like Giannis, like J. Rue, like Brook Lopez, like Chris Middleton. So I think the Bucks are looking really for me to win in the regular season top seed. I really liked as well the signing of George Hill, bringing him back. It brings a vet off the bench. It gives them a little bit more experience, a ball handler for when they go into the playoffs, just for alternates, just to be able to rotate the lineup a little bit. So I see Milwaukee at number one. No surprises then, perhaps. Then I see Brooklyn coming in at number two. As I said at the start of the video, I just don't think Kyrie Irving is going to play. Um, if you said to me, any player who would die on that hill and say, I am not going along with the NBA's vaccine policy and I will show my beliefs all season and sit out the whole season if needs be, it's Kyrie Irving. There is no doubt in my mind that if he has to do that, he will. If Kyrie plays, it changes the picture entirely. One of the most skilled, one of the most talented point guards that you've got in the league. Brilliant to watch, but I don't think he will as it stands right now. I thought the Nets made some really smart, what I would call championship moves. So Paul Millsap, brilliant addition. LaMarcus Aldridge, don't know how much he's got left in the tank. Does have the experience. Patty Mills signing, absolutely inspired. But what will he be doing now as the sub for Kyrie Irving? Instead of backing him up and having a real run at the sixth man award, will Patty Mills now be starting? I thought the Nets had a really good draft as well. I thought Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe were brilliant pickups for where they were picked, where Brooklyn has an elite team picking at. They maximised those picks. And I don't think the loss of DeAndre Jordan will affect them at all. I think they will be just fine. As last season went on, Jordan's role on the team got less and less to the point of where he wasn't a feature. So I don't think that's going to feature at all. It is very possible that the Nets and Bucks could switch, but I think it depends on the Kyrie situation, and I do think there'll be a load management going on. Bearing in mind Kevin Durant, let me say Kevin Garnett there, Kevin Durant, and wanting to keep it for the playoffs. Teams like the Nets and the Lakers will be looking for me just to get home court and rest on certain nights. In the third seed, then, this is where we start. I think things get really interesting in the East because there's a bunch of teams who I think from this point on could move around. This time last season, I thought it was pretty nailed on that it was going to be the Bucks, it was going to be the Nets, and it was going to be the Sixers in the top three. I will come to Philadelphia shortly. However, I think Miami with the off season they've had, the personnel they've got, could be the number 3 seed this season. I think going forward, a couple of seasons down the line, there could be a lot of questions about some of the deals that's been handed out. But if you're looking at as a win now, Butler, Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, that's a pretty solid, good big three. But it's what you can add around that. Putting in that experience of PJ Tucker, who I think when it comes to the playoffs will be a big miss for the Bucks. Tyler Hero, who I think could have a bounce back season this year, and could be a shout for maybe the sixth man award. And then you've got to throw into that as well. Victor Oladipo at some point is going to come back this season. And again, if you're talking about Oladipo coming off the bench, if they get anything like vintage Victor Oladipo, this is a pretty stacked Miami team. And then you add to that Eric Spoelstra, who, for my money, and I'm saying this as a Magic fan, is one of the top 3 coaches in the league. And Spoelstra will make that work. So that's why I've given the edge to Miami at 3. I then think the Atlanta Hawks will come in at 4. They got a taste last year. So last year was when the Hawks really came into their own, but they had the talent, but they've got a bullseye on them as well this year. Some things to look out for. First of all, I think Trae Young, despite the rule changes, will still continue to flourish. What we saw for me when he was playing against the Knicks, it felt like, even though it's a different era, it was a bit like watching Reggie play, Reggie Miller, where he was just feeding off the controversy, feeding off the Knicks crowd, feeding off the boos. He just played into it. This guy likes pressure. So I think he is legit. Trae Young is legit. On top of that, will Cam Reddish make a leap? There were signs there last season. I think you've got DeAndre Hunter coming back. You then add in, I think, a really good draft. So you've got Sharif Cooper, but you've got Jalen Johnson, who some people were touting Jalen Johnson going in the 7, 8, 9 range of picks. What will he be? We don't know. But I think his downside is that he will be, at 12 points per game to 15 points a game player. We don't know what this guy's going to do, but I think the Hawks, with where they were picking, the talent they've already got, could afford to take that risk, and it's one that might pay off. In 5th then, and you'll notice I haven't said Philly yet, and I'm still not going to say Philly, I'm going with the Chicago Bulls, who made absolutely huge strides during the off-season. I thought the pickup of DeRozan was sensible. You've got a guy there who just knows how to score. So when you're looking at a third scoring option on the team, DeRozan fits there perfectly. Caruso will give them a lot of energy off the bench. He's played, obviously, in the big market before with the Lakers, but I really think the signing, which was the coup, was picking up Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball fits this team massively. He gives them a true steady point guard for the first time in what feels like a long, long time. And he's improved on his 3-point shot. The guy can defend. He's got a point to prove. I really would not be surprised if Ball took a swing at the Most Improved Player award. Regardless of what happens here, though, they're going to be a fun team to watch. I am interested to see what happens with Kobe White. I think, again, bench punch could be great there. As a Magic fan, Nikola Vucevic, just an underrated player. Zach LaVine's defense has improved as things have gone on, and I feel Patrick Williams is a player who slept on. So the Bulls, it wouldn't surprise me if they took the 5th seed, but I see the East as very fluid. This concept of a very weak Eastern Conference has gone. There are some really strong teams here, and the Philadelphia 76ers, with the Ben Simmons turmoil, is why I have them here. Philadelphia are a supremely talented team. Philadelphia should be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. They are in their window now. What happened with Ben Simmons against the Atlanta Hawks, I just can't put that into words. If I was a Philadelphia fan, I would be extremely frustrated. I don't know whether Simmons is going to play or not, but what's going to come his way from a very passionate Philadelphia fan base will mean to me that he might not be able to produce mentally in this environment. if Philadelphia make a trade and get anywhere near to the potential value for what Ben Simmons can bring a team. So I've seen the names like De'Aaron Fox being banded around. Philadelphia will rise. But with this feels like circus, this soap opera that's going on at the minute, it's hard to say that Philadelphia, with the leaps that the other teams have made, could claim to be comfortably a top three team in the East. They still have Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, supreme player, a player I love to watch. Tobias Harris, incredibly underrated. Vets like Seth Curry, Danny Green, they've got everything in place, but it's either going to take a trade or a Tyrese Maxey leap, and I mean a huge leap, for Philadelphia to be in the top three, the top four of the East. Another interesting teams for me, the next two I'm going to choose. The first one's the Boston Celtics, and I could make a case for the next four teams just alternating round spots or going higher. Boston, I've got at 7. I do think that Jason Tatum is going to take a leap this season. It is possible we could be sat here in May that talking about Jason Tatum as a 30 points per game player. The guy has put some serious work in the off season, and if he starts picking up foul calls inside, you're looking at 30 points per game from Tatum. I thought the pickup of Dennis Schroeder to play a backup role off the bench, again, inspired. The man has a point to prove. He knows how to be an effective bench player. He could be a candidate for Sixth Man of the Year. And the low-key Al Horford return. Yes, he's older, but he is the best big option that the Boston Celtics have had since Al Horford was last there. I just don't know if they're as stacked when you think of Gordon Hayward's gone, when you think of the Kemba Walker situation that never fully played out, Kyrie Irving, that's everything, how that ended. I just don't think Boston's as stacked as they were when you consider the talent rise on other Eastern teams. However, I think Tatum is that good that he could by himself raise them. I'm expecting a huge season from Tatum this season. If Boston ends up in the top 4, you're probably talking about Tatum being in the conversation for MVP. Next up, and I'm expecting some flames here because I don't know whether to go Indiana or New York, and in the end, I've gone for Indiana. And this was just a team that seemed to be, when I saw the Pacers last season, playing through real problems with the coaching, and I was no surprise that the changes were made, but the players just did not seem to be on the same page as the coach. Rick Carlisle coming back is huge. This is a team that is slept on seemingly year on year, where you expect the Pacers not to make the playoffs, and then they do. But if you look at the talent, Sabonis, Brogdon, LeVert, Turner, and then I think a low-key pickup in Chris Duarte, they could finish tops. They could finish outside of the play comfortably in the playoffs in the 5th or the 6th seed. But Rick Carlisle for me is a game changer, bringing him back into town. I then have the Knicks, and I feel really, really harsh about this because I think the Knicks are a good team. And if this was a few years ago where the New York Knicks were playing against a weaker Eastern Conference, I'd be talking about the Knicks finishing in the top 3. And I think that what's really happened is it centers on, for me, how healthy is Kemba Walker, because what they've paid for Kemba Walker in New York is potentially a steal. If they get anything near to, say, 80% of Charlotte Hornets Kemba Walker, this Knicks team has improved from last year. He's a fun player. He's worth a league pass when he's fit. I just don't know whether he's fully going to be fit again. The guard rotation of him, Rose, and Quickly is dynamic. It's exciting. I think Evan Fournier, even though the money was big, is a good signing. He will give 17 to 18 points per game. He is a good locker room presence. I'll tell you that from Orlando. He's a good guy to have in there, and he will space that floor out a little bit. Player to watch is RJ Barrett, and he's another player where I think he could take that leap. And I would not be surprised if Barrett takes the leap, a bit like Tatum takes a leap. If Barrett takes a leap and the Knicks finish as a top 6 seed, I think it's going to be off the back of a healthy Kemba Walker and RJ Barrett perhaps being the star of the New York Knicks team. We will see. And then if going back to this recurring theme of how strong the East are, Charlotte Hornets are sat in 10th. This is a good team. And this is why I'm going to say this is a good team. They made into the play-in last year with LaMelo Ball out injured for a significant stretch. LaMelo Ball was the deserving Rookie of the Year. LaMelo Ball could very well put up near to a triple-double in the future in the NBA. He's lifted the entire franchise in Charlotte. He's put eyes on the Hornets. He's made them a League Pass team. Where I live in England, you can't really get a LaMelo Ball jersey. You want to order a LaMelo Ball jersey, it's going out. Kids, you go to basketball camps and such, kids are wearing LaMelo Ball Charlotte jerseys. It feels like it's back in the 90s when the very popular Larry Johnson, Lonzo Moore and Muggsy Bogues teal Hornets shirts were must-haves. It feels a little bit like it's going back there. They've got a really good coach in James Borrego. If LaMelo Ball had been healthy, I think Charlotte would have been in the playoffs as maybe the 6th seed. What the question marks are for me is really Gordon Hayward. It's a bit like the Kemba Walker situation. Great player. But how many injuries can he keep getting? How much will he play? What influence will that have on team chemistry? I felt that as well that the Kelly Oubre pickup maybe is a little bit there as an insurance policy with that. What will he bring? I don't think it worked out for him in Golden State at all. I know a couple of Golden State fans. He's not their favourite person in the world, shall we say. But I think possibly a decent pickup as backup to Gordon Hayward, but Gordon Hayward, he is not. And then some of the off-season moves. I thought Charlotte had a really good draft. James Bouknight falling, and thinking a couple of years down the line of LaMelo Ball and James Bouknight, that is a seriously entertaining, potentially entertaining, shall we say, backcourt. There was a lot of talk that Kai Jones was loved by the Hornets brass. They needed a big. They went out and they got him. And they also picked up JT Thor, which I think is a pretty good swing, if you want to call it that, a punt. And then alongside that, you've got Mason Plumlee, who at least gives them some size and a veteran. So, Charlotte, again, a bit like Indiana, could be a team that turns heads. In 11th, I've got the Washington Wizards. And they've made coaching change. They're a bit of an X factor. Russell Westbrook has gone, and it's a rebirth. I think the biggest benefit of this could be Danny Avdiya, who could benefit hugely without Westbrook dominating the ball. Again, there's question marks, but I think Spencer Dinwiddie is potentially, for the younger players there, a better fit. But it might take him time to play his way back, which is why I've got Washington sliding a little bit alongside the strength of what's already been mentioned. Bradley Beal, I fully expect to be again around 30 points per game. The fact he's sticking with Washington, I love that. I really don't like seeing players going, I'm going to bolt to get a ring. So I'm rooting for Bradley Beal. I have a lot of question marks about what's going to happen with Kyle Kuzma. I also have question marks about the draft pick of Corey Kispert. I'm not sure about Kispert. I don't know whether it's going to work or not. I've just got this hunch that at his very best, you're going to get like a Joe Harris light, where there's nothing wrong with that. But I think on the Wizards team, his role might be bigger than it should be to start with as a rookie. So I'm not sure what we're going to see from Kispert early. I don't think he's going to come in the league as an older rookie and make the impact that you would hope for his age. Kyle Kuzma is getting his chance. What will he do with it? My hunch will be we're going to see certain nights where Kuzma looks like a star, and we're going to see certain nights where Kuzma is Kuzma. That is what I think will happen. I really am also interested to see how Daniel Gafford will go. He ended the season incredibly strong. They've got a real great backup in Montrezl Harrell. For whatever reason, it just didn't work at the Lakers. So there are shoots there for the Wizards. I just feel it's going to be a feeling out process for them this season of seeing what they have. It's a big move. There's been a lot of personnel changes, coaching change. I'm just not sure. And then that brings me to Toronto, and I like what the Raptors have. I think Nick Nurse is a good coach, and I think it's well known how well Toronto develops players. Pascal Siakam's injury and how fit he comes back. There's talk about round about Thanksgiving. If Siakam was fit to start the season, the Raptors could be higher and within that pack of like trying to get the 7th or the 8th seed or the play-in. There's a lot of discussion about whether the Raptors made the right pick in Scotty Barnes. There was eyebrows raised, myself included, about when the Raptors selected Barnes ahead of Jalen Suggs. I think the Raptors and the Magic got it right. I really did expect, though, if the Barnes pick being made, that there might be room to move Siakam on, but there is also potential of playing Barnes and Siakam together eventually. I think Barnes is an inspired pick. If he finds a jumper, he could well be a consistent jumper, shall I say, outside shot. He could well be the best player in this draft. The guy feels like a walking triple-double. He's a huge energy guy. I think his flaw is Draymond Green. I don't think that's his ceiling. I think that's his flaw. And then don't discount things such as the Raps being back in Canada. I think that will be huge. I think Malachi Flynn was a great pick. Had a solid rookie year. I think he will be consistent again. And when you look at the bigs positions, with how Toronto started last season, for how they're going to start this season, Kem Birch is tough. He will battle for you every single night. And Precious Achiuwa, I think, was a great throw-in on the Dragic pick. Will Dragic stay? Who knows? Is he happy in Toronto? Don't know. I have heard and seen people question, is it that much of a drop-off from Dragic to Lowry? And I guess it's a we will see. One prediction, this could be where OG Anunoby makes the Raptors his team, and he could be the one who makes the serious run at most improved player. So again, there's a lot of questions around Toronto this year, but I think the Siakam not being ready to start the season and then perhaps having to play his way back could be what costs them down the line. But the potential's there. The way that Toronto develops players has a long-term vision, and the Scotty Barnes draft pick. Great moves, good future. Raptors are going to be bouncing back. Cleveland will be, in my opinion, 13th. I think there will be a line after Cleveland, so I think Cleveland will improve this year. The backcourt is there. A healthy Darius Garland will turn some heads. Colin Sexton, I feel, is a player who doesn't get the respect he deserves. I'm hoping the Cavs are on board keeping him. I like this backcourt, but I'm really interested in what's going to happen with the front court. Mobley, I think, will take time, but if they've drafted, if Evan Mobley plays out and is Chris Bosh, just for argument's sake, he lives up to that, the draft expert's potential and is Chris Bosh. Putting him alongside Jarrett Allen could be really interesting. The pick I'm really interested about here is Lauri Markkanen. It wasn't that long ago that Markkanen was being talked up as a real breakout player for the Bulls, and it just didn't work out. I don't think Lauri Markkanen's going to give you a lot defensively in the front court. But when you're thinking about Mobley, when you're thinking about Allen, Okoro, does he need to? Maybe he's just going to be this offensive threat off the bench, or a guy where if Mobley hits a rookie wall, they can bring him in alongside Allen. I think that could be a low-key, really good pickup, which made a lot of sense for Cleveland. In 14th, I have the Detroit Pistons. And I felt the Pistons did really well in the draft. I know there was some people saying, they should take Jalen Green. Detroit can't do that. If you've been a basketball fan for a while, you'll remember Darko Milicic being taken ahead of Carmelo Anthony, ahead of Dwayne Wade, ahead of Chris Bosh. Detroit couldn't do that. They couldn't be in that position. If you're the Detroit top brass, to be getting the number 1 pick and risking it. Cade was the safe pick. Cade will hit the expectations. There will be a learning curve being a young team, but I think it's going to be a really fun 1-2 punch with Jeremy Grant. I think Sadiq Bey is a nice complementary third option who could be even better than that. I don't know what we're going to see out of Killian Hayes this season. And I really also felt low-key the Luka Garza pickup with the 52nd pick. If you're just looking for a bench big, might be something that's better than people might think. You know, if you've talked to people from Iowa, they'll love Luka Garza. I think that's a good pickup for Detroit. We'll see. Maybe I'll be getting slandered or thrown out on this video in the comments at some point, but I just think that's a low-key good pickup for the Pistons. It will be a learning curve season, but I think there will be light starting to shine as the season goes on. Unfortunately, then that if you've been doing your maths and keeping score, that leaves one team. Unfortunately, it's my team, the Orlando Magic, in 15th. So please do not come at me with I'm being biased. This is a rebuild, and it's a rebuild that's starting with Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz not being ready for the start of the season. If they were ready, if they were fit, this is a team that's better than 15th, but they are not. They are serious injuries that these guys have had, and it could take a year for them to get their full confidence back. If you've ever played any sport, you've ever had any serious type of injury, you don't just get to do the rehab and come back. You then have that fear that it's going to happen again. These are the types of injuries where you think, does it take something from a player? I really think the Magic need Markelle Fultz to get healthy. Fultz last season, before he went down, was looking like he was going to have a breakout. The Magic are he's dynamic. The way he runs the court at times, it's like watching a gazelle going up the court. The way he just glides with the ball. That shoulder injury is such a shame because you can see in all other aspects of his game what Markelle Fultz has. And then when he went down with the ACL, there was no player in this league, and I say this as a Magic fan who I'm rooting for more than Markelle Fultz. I would love to see what a backcourt of Fultz and Suggs can do. I do think the keys are going to be handed to Suggs at the start of the season, and I think it'll be a slow process. I don't think Suggs is going to come in and hit the ground running with gaudy stats scores. I think he'll be a worrier. I think he'll be a hustle player, and I think you might get some of like a Marcus Smart, Jrue Holiday vibe from him. But putting a rookie in a situation to be a great scorer, which I think some people are expecting, might not happen when you consider the lack of that on the Magic team. He's likely to be partnered with Gary Harris in the backcourt. And unfortunately, Gary Harris just seems to have lost his shot. I don't know what has happened there. He's a great locker room guy. He's obviously a very good defender. He's a respected veteran. And you can see why you would pair him alongside Suggs in the backcourt. I say as a veteran, he's 26 years old. I'd love to be 26 again. But I think the future is trying that backcourt with Fultz. I also will be really interested in seeing that backcourt with RJ Hampton, who was a player I'll keep an eye on. He had a big growth spurt. He was brilliant when he came to Orlando in the Aaron Gordon trade as a throw-in. He's a lot more than a throw-in. He really lit it up when he joined the Magic last season. I think he's a player to watch. I also think it's very, very interesting that the Magic have been playing pre-season games with Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr., who recently just signed an extension, a new contract with the Magic. Those two have been playing together. They've looked great. Carter, for me, has been Orlando's best player in the pre-season. And when I saw Carter play for the Bulls, it didn't seem to come together, but he was really, really solid when he came to Orlando. And what seems to have just held him back is injuries, which seems to be the story of his career. He's still only 22 years old, and he's shown that he's possibly developed an outside shot. So he's a player to keep an eye on. On top of that, Mo Bamba, I think it's probably the worst kept secret in Orlando that Bamba and Steve Clifford weren't working. Liked Steve Clifford as a coach, but it just wasn't working out. As soon as Jamal Mosley came into Orlando, there's footage of Mosley working out one-to-one with Bamba. By all accounts, when there's the sideline and Bamba's body language, his attitude is different. He has looked a different player, albeit in the pre-season, than what we've seen before. So I think there's potentially breakouts all over the Magic team. My worry is what will hold the Magic back is I don't see straight away a number one scorer. And I think there's a lot of questions about who is and who isn't going to be with this team going forward. The potential is incredible as a Magic fan, but it's who is going to be the alpha. And I think when you take out Isaac and Fultz, when you think of the seriousness of the injuries, it will take time for the Magic. I think the Magic could be a team that gets better as the season goes, but it might be too late. And even just if you're looking at the noises that the Magic management are making, this is a development season, and it's reflected in who the coach is and the fact that Steve Clifford isn't here anymore. So that's the season preview for the East. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.